Hi, Dawn Lewis here. Welcome to day 2 of the new 7 Ways in 7 Days 12 by 12 cardstock video series. Today we're making a birthday card with our core ingredients, and you can find a full list on my blog, which is linked below. I'm using this gorgeous paper pad that I got from Kmart of all places. It was $12. There are 40 sheets and it's slightly larger than a regular A4. I've got more details on my blog, but I love this because it fits these background dies beautifully. This is my leftover green cardstock from making the slider card yesterday, and the die fits on this absolutely perfectly as well. So I'll be using that and cutting two today. So I've got 2 card bases I'm folding in half. I will trim them off a little at the bottom, but I love this Kmart cardstock because these card bases end up 15 cents each, and I think that's pretty good for a textured card base. I'm going to adhere my die to the leftover green cardstock just using some washi tape and run it through my Big Shot. I've run it through twice just because there's a lot going on there and it is textured. And look how beautifully this fits on this card base. I do admit I went back and I bought more of these paper pads. They're good value. So, and of course I'm going to trim off the bottom. I'm stamping with Memento Tuxedo Black ink today onto Express It blending card because I'm going to be colouring with Copics. I also like to stamp my images twice for a really dark black line. Colouring with Copics now, you can see all of the colours I used at the top of the screen. I know it's going really fast, but you can find a full list over on my blog link down below. So I'm using cool greys for the robes, warm greys for his hair. Of course, Harry's with Gryffindor, and we've got to colour the Nimbus 2000. And I'm using the brand new matching Wizards dies to cut out these little characters today. These dies are new from Sweet Stamp Shop to match with Wizards. There's also Grand Wizard, and this new release that they've done are open dies instead of closed. I've laid all my stamps out to decide where everything's going to go, and I've decided to stamp the greeting directly onto the card base so that it's framed up by the tri-window frame. I keep wanting to say tri-wizard tournament, not tri-window frame. Just it's a Harry Potter thing. I'm using an anti-static powder tool here, and I'm going to stamp the greeting in embossing ink. This is distressed embossing ink, but you could use Versamark or whatever you have. They all do the same job, I reckon. I did stamp it twice because a little part of it wasn't quite right, and I'm putting some white embossing powder over the top. So I'm going to heat set that with my heat tool, and now this isn't a super fine embossing powder and I really can't read that very well, so I wasn't happy with that. So I had to look for a way to cover it up because it was right on the card, and here was my solution. I have these really cool cog dies. I can't even remember where I got them. I think I picked them up at a garage sale or an op shop or something, and the greeting fits exactly onto that solid cog. So I've stamped it onto there with archival jet black ink, and I'm using some black soot distress ink just to grunge it up, make it a little bit dirtier because that stark white was just too much. And I'm also going to add some vintage photo just around the edges so that it's got a little bit more, I don't know, depth to it, a bit more layering. So I'm really, really happy with the solution that I found to the embossing that went wrong. A little more Copic colouring now. I'm colouring in Hedwig with warm greys and took a couple of dark yellows for his beak and his claws. Hagrid is getting a warm grey hair treatment, and I went really rough colouring his hair because his hair's really rough, and I also went really rough and non-blendy when I coloured his jacket because it's kind of a big hairy jacket, and I wanted to give the illusion of it being all rough and tumble and hairy. I've given him, there's no matching die. Magical Friends is brand new from Sweet Stamp Shop, and if you're looking for Sweet Stamp Shop in Australia, you can find it at dawnlewis.com.au in the Sweet Stamp Shop section. I'll just search Magical Friends, and this one doesn't have a matching die, so I did fussy cut Hedwig and Hagrid. So I'm putting down my frame now. I've buffed off all of the powder, the anti-static powder, and it comes off really, really easily. I just keep an old handkerchief on my desk, one of the kids' old hankies, and it works a treat. I've trimmed the card base, and I will use that trimming in a future project for this video series. Tombow Mono Adhesive, I've chosen to use liquid glue for these just because I want to be able to wriggle it around and make sure I get it in exactly the right spot so that the text is straight. And I'm going to use acrylic blocks to hold everything down while it dries, because even though though this is a fairly flat card, just the texture in both of these cardstocks and the fact that the frame is up a little higher, I just want to make sure that the glue takes all over. So I'm going to apply some more Tombow mono adhesive. And this is brilliant glue, by the way. You know, if you let it dry and go clear, it acts as a temporary adhesive. Isn't that just the coolest thing? It's pretty much the only liquid glue I use. I've got a glue pen I use on occasion, but this is absolutely my favorite liquid glue. So I'm using acrylic blocks to hold everything down so as it dries, it doesn't pop up from one side of the frame, and you know there's a bit hanging around. And I thought it would be really fun to have Hedwig riding the broom. I can't say I ever remember that happening in the books or the movies, because we all know that sometimes the movies don't match up to the books, but maybe that's a rant I should have on another day. But I did think it would be fun to have Hedwig riding on Harry's broom, which, you know, just for a little something different. I'm adding some wood veneer stars by Fundamentals. I love the Fundamentals wood veneers. You can get them at Spotlight, and they are in so many great shapes, and you get heaps in a packet. They're really good value, especially if you pick them up when these are 30% off store-wide, just saying. And I'm going to come over the top and put a little bit of Wink of Stella onto those stars. With these wood veneers, it does sink in a little, so you'll need 2 or 3 coats to really make it shine. And there is our finished card. I've used today Grand Wizard, Wizards and Magical Friends, and I've also used the Mama Elephant Tri-Window die. You can find all of these at dawnlewis.com.au, linked in the blog post below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this video series as I use up every tiny scrap of my 12 by 12 lime cardstock. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this video series. I hope you have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.